Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first of what we hope is a series of town hall events, sharing some exciting news, and we're so glad to have all of you with us. First of all, we'd like to recognize those that are going to be presenting tonight. My name is Brian Hurst. I'm one of the board of directors. We're going to be hearing from our president, Brian Bickhart, our general manager, Alfred Logan, also the directors, Bill Scott and Joanne Romero. Also, we want to give recognition to the planning committee. And on the planning committee, we have Bill Brown, Mike Carl, Lisa Verhagen, Jerry Lawrence, Regina Dixon, Corey Wynn, Diane Bickhart, and Lori Rice. And would you do me a great honor and give a great, great thank you to all of these people who are giving of their time and energy and effort. Come on, you can do better than that. Yeah. We're so excited about the future of Spring Valley Lake, and it's going to be a great, great season for all of us. So in 1969, most of you know that Boise Cascade developed our community with a vision to make our community a recreational vacation land, complete with a mile-long lake, an equestrian center, and an 18-hole championship golf course. Over the following decades, Spring Valley Lake began to evolve and become more and more of a family-oriented community as families purchased homes here, not as a second home or as a vacation home, but to actually raise their families, or what my friend Joe Brady likes to call a place to work, play, and live. And people were attracted to the beautiful aesthetics of the community and the fresh, clean air, and it became known what to many of us know as the jewel of the desert, or as one of our residents was careful to say, is the jewel of the high desert, not just the low desert. And so the community over the years just increasingly involved and became more of this family-friendly community. I myself and the board of directors have found ourselves in a position where we are now the stewards of this precious community that's so valuable to all of us. And we bear a great responsibility to deliver to our children and to our grandchildren this community that's the jewel of the high desert, a place that is, above all, a wonderful place to work, play, and live, and raise our family. And over the last 2 years, through no choice of our own, we have been put in this position that has now become this incredible opportunity. It is an opportunity for us as a leadership team and for us as a community, and it is going to take all of us to rally together to not only preserve our way of life, but to also preserve our property values, and even more so to enhance our way of life and our property values. And what you're going to hear tonight is the opening salvo, as our president likes to say, of the vision to do just that. And so with that, again, we want to thank you for being here tonight, and we hope that you will enjoy the presentation, that it will be informational and educational for you. And with that, I would like to introduce to you a hardworking man that's full of dedication and knowledge and ability. Would you please give a warm welcome to our president, Mr. Brian Bickhart, as he comes.
Thank you, Brian. So, would you like to start off by saying, how did we get here? Why are we buying the club now? I can tell you from personal experience, I did not wake up one morning and decide that we needed to own a club, or I needed to own a club, or the association needed to own a club. We became aware that the club was put on a disposition list in 2018, and even though the club is not actively listed for sale, that disposition list means the club they want to liquidate the club, and they are accepting offers from the people in the know on that club. So that being said, in 2019, the board put together a task force to deal with options on what to do with the club. The task force, after months of due diligence, recommended to the board purchasing the club. That report, that task force report is available online if you want to see it. Several reasons that the task force noted for purchasing rather than some of the other options were, some of the other options did not include control over the club while basically subsidizing the club with association funds, I might add. Purchasing the club will enhance property values and the overall living in Spring Valley Lake. That club is right in the middle of Spring Valley Lake. We can't afford to let that go to waste. If we don't buy, there's terrible things could happen. We need to be in control of that. One of the other reasons is control over our own destiny. That club may sell to someone in the immediate future who has an earnest desire to make that club successful. If they struggle, the next person that buys it may not. And there's plenty of headwinds for them to make that club successful. And I'd like to add also to that the country club right now is outside of the HOA control. So we don't have any control if someone else buys it. If they want to build a new building there or make changes to the property, we have no control. They don't submit to the architectural committee the same way you or I would for improvements on our property. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the water. The water we get for our lake comes from the hatchery through the golf course. If we acquire the club, we will have control over that water, meaning that we can change how we treat that water or treat it in general. They're not doing anything to it now. And it will improve lake clarity tremendously, just having access to those. So given the volume of information suggesting the best decision to purchase the club, the board began negotiating with Club Corp with the intent to purchase. And that contract is nearly ready for signatures. I think that contract will be ready for signatures next week. The board also authorized an evaluation from the club from Kristovich and Associates, that they are a golf course consultant. That report will be available for you all once that contract is signed with Club Corp. And in closing, I'd like to introduce Bill Scott, who's going to talk about issues with not purchasing the club.
Hi, neighbors. It's great to see everybody, and thank you for showing up. Really appreciate the interest that everybody has, and rightly so. This is important. I've lived here for 30 years. I know many of you have lived here longer than that. And we really not only have a vested interest, but we raised our families here. We're part of the fabric of the community, and it's our way of life. We bought into Spring Valley Lake because of the lake and the country club and all the amenities. And I know way back when I was in college, I was part of a group of business guys, and we bought Bill Batten, who was president and chairman of Boise Cascade in 1970, to our campus. It's just a coincidence. And I remember him really touting all these resort communities that they were going to buy. Well, they got a little overextended, I should say. But we heard last night from Joanne, or a couple nights ago, that the golf course was actually planted before the lake was starting to be dredged. Is that correct? About the same time.
But it was, the grass has to take some.
The grass has to grow.
Take some time.
Yes. And so the thought is that, I'm sure that they probably planned on having both of these large amenities as together to go to the community. But also, let's face it, these companies are all about money, as most companies are. And if they could make more money selling off the golf course, well, obviously they did. And so One of the problems is, as Brian said, what did you say, Brian? That it's all about control. We like to control our lives. We like to control the biggest asset that we have, certainly the value of it, as best we can. And we all go up and down with our values, but if we lose control, we've been lucky, I should say, because the investment companies and management companies that have operated our golf course have done a good job. It's still a really nice club, and it's really still a nice golf course. But not having control, and when you look at a map, do we have a map? Maybe we don't have a map. But if you look an aerial view of Spring Valley Lake, you have the lake, and you have the golf and country club, and they're just as big as each other, or pretty close, and they are the heart of our community. And so without control, there's a real opportunity of losing home values. As Brian said, is that we have no control now, and if somebody in good faith purchases the club and it's not us, certainly if they want to make more money, or if they have an opportunity to make more money and sell it off to somebody else, again, we have no control what's going to happen. So there was when we moved in here, we probably paid a 5 or 10% premium just to come into Spring Valley Lake. And we have an example of a golf course just down the hill. Actually, I keep saying a golf course. It's a country club that includes a golf course. It had a lot of other amenities also. Didn't have a lake, but and a company called Western Golf purchased it because the homeowners had I think they were lulled into sleeping. They said, things will somebody will buy it and they'll do a good job, and we just have to kind of mosey along like we've been. Well, it turns out that Western Golf had a land use survey and what is best for them to make a profit. And it wasn't golf or the country club. It was actually building 174 condos and 34 single-family dwellings on the golf course. So they went to the homeowners and they said, we'd like to do this, and would you support us? Well, obviously the homeowners, maybe in a little bit of arrogance, saying, you can't, you're going to continue using the golf, or maintaining the golf course. They said, no, we don't want condominiums, and we don't want more homes on the golf course. I believe there's about 450 lots at this particular complex. And so after the vote, within 24 hours, can you see this fence down below? That fence went around the whole country club, the whole thing, with large signs that says, do not enter. And a short time later, and it's very difficult to see, but up in the upper left-hand corner, there's actually a tractor out there. And that tractor pulled up the irrigation system, which probably to replace would be over $1 million or more, and dug holes. I don't know if you can see those little darker spots all over. Those are holes dug in the fairways. The golf course was done, and no matter what the citizens do, the golf course is ruined. So these people can wait it out, and eventually the zoning could change. They're trying to change the zoning for a higher density level. Right now, we have a particular zoning that we like, and we just need to maintain our country club. There's another positive thing to this, is that some people are country club people, quote unquote. Some people are not. Some people are maybe a little bit afraid. Maybe some people don't have the couple $1,000s it may take to join a country club, so they don't. But the country club has some great opportunities. I remember my kids, they have the trifecta during the summer, playing tennis, golf, and swimming. They learned how to do this stuff, and it was wonderful. And they look forward to it every year. In fact, my girls learned, and they continued on, and they played tennis in high school and 2 years at VVC because of that trifecta. and learning the right way to play tennis. And and both of them now play golf. Better than me. And then it's also a central point where a lot of people can congregate and meet new people. Their new neighbors. And I think that's wonderful. We don't have that. We have a community center here, which is great. But we don't have coffee on tap. We don't have a restaurant. We don't have a bar. We don't have a lot of things that many of us would like to have available. And if it's at a very, very low price, well, there's real opportunities for everybody to participate and enjoy, and it's all about family too. Okay, well, the same golf club down in Escondido area bought another country club, and guess what? Fence is up again. It's the same modus operandi. When I was doing a little bit of research the last couple of weeks on I let my Google, there's been a number of country club sales. Most of them that you hear about were with small communities, 450, 500, 600, 700 homes. And when you purchased or take over a country club, well, there's a certain amount, a level of overhead. And so it may cost $200 a month, $300 a month, which is actually very reasonable to belong to a country club. But in our case, it would be substantially less because we have 4,215 lots. And Brian has done a good job of finding someone that can help us secure the country club. So, there's home values. Well, the home values did go down a lot. They went down about 25 to 30%. Plus you tack on, they missed all the appreciation of 2018, 2019, 2020, because homes have been going up, let's say 5 to 10%, maybe even a little bit more in certain areas. So they could have maybe taken a hit of 35% of the actual today's home value because of this. That hurts, because all of us, for most cases, certainly with me, my home is the most expensive asset that I have. And it's the one that you want to maintain a value as best you can. And certainly if you have children or family, when I'm gone, I want something to pass down. And so in my opinion, purchasing the club is the only answer. I think that the rest of the guys and gals are going to tell you that it's the right thing to do. I certainly made my mind up because it maintains our values and our way of life, and we don't lose control of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, thank you. You can lead this up. So this is actual MLS data that we were able to pull just 2 nights ago. During calendar year January 1, 2016 to January 1, 2018, median sale price in that neighborhood that had that golf club was almost $2.3 million was the median sale price. From January 1, 2018 to January 1, 2020, median sale price went down to 1.7, a loss of about 30%. Now, who has a smartphone with a calculator on it? If you could help me, please. Somebody volunteer? Oh, you guys are great. I know somebody has a smartphone with a calculator on it. Somebody? All right, in the back, good. All right, so I know that I happen to be a real estate broker by trade, and that our median sale price in Spring Valley Lake, as we sit today, is $375,000. And let's say that 30% was maybe a little, because I've heard people say something about fear-mongering. Can I tell you that this is not fear-mongering? This is an actual case study that is within an hour's drive of our community of something that actually happened. But let's say that 30% maybe is a little too much or an overestimate of what our potential property values could be diminished if the club fell into the wrong hands, like a company like this who just put a fence around it and they're going to repurpose it for some other reason. And we only lost 15%. So somebody tell me what 15% of 375,000 is? 56,250, is that the right number? That would be per home on average, right? 56,250. If you could please multiply that times the amount of SFRs that we have in our community. So 56,250 times 3,900. 56,250 times 3,900. And somebody give me the number. 200. You lost me after 219 million. 219,375,000 is the potential, conservatively, of lost wealth from our community if we don't rally and preserve this precious asset along with our lake that makes so much our way of life here in Spring Valley Lake. So one of the questions that's asked is, well, how, you're an HOA, how in the world, what do you know about managing a country club? And the truth is that we don't know anything about managing a country club. We're going to have to hire a manager to manage the country club. And fortunately for us, we happen to have a general manager at our country club who is employed by the current ownership that is also a homeowner here, also is raising his family here, and is supremely qualified. Some would argue that he's a little overqualified to run our country club. He's actually been doing an admirable job of running our country club with what, in my estimation, is one hand, maybe two hands tied behind his back when it comes to human resources, when it comes to labor costs, when it comes to capital improvements, when it comes to maintenance. You know, when you're working for a company that their attitude toward the asset is we're not going to fix it unless we absolutely have to, just put a Band-Aid on it and keep collecting dues, it makes it difficult to deliver. And yet our general manager has done a very good job, and we hope if all things work out that we'll be able to retain our manager, and maybe at least for the time being that he'll be able to kind of bridge that gap and make it to where there's not a lot of disruption in the way the club is managed. And then we are also exploring consulting management companies like Troon Golf or Touchstone Golf to come alongside and help us keep our asset beautiful, keep it running well, making sure the service is impeccable for everyone involved. One of the other questions that comes to us is, and really there's three pressing questions that every resident wants to know as it pertains to the acquisition of the country club. They want to know how much is it going to cost. They want to know what is it going to afford them, what are they going to get for the purchase, and they want to know how is it going to impact their monthly dues. Those are the questions that I get fielded most often. Hopefully we're going to give information we may not be able to announce with precision tonight, but we're going to answer some of those questions for you. So the way to handle, in terms of what it's going to afford the homeowner, as it stands now, the country club has 3 tiers of membership. You have a social membership, and I think that the dues for a social membership are somewhere between $100 and $150, and that affords you the opportunity to access the property, to dine at the restaurant, to enjoy the social events that are put on, and access to some of the other amenities, including playing golf on a limited basis if you just pay the green fee and the cart fee. There's also a tennis membership, which is kind of a sports membership, and it provides more access to the member, and then a full golf membership, which is unlimited access for the monthly dues. Our plan is hopefully to retain a similar structure of tiered memberships, both to limit the affordability factor or the impact to somebody who doesn't want necessarily to use the country club on a full-time basis, but also to provide every homeowner access to the club on some basis. And I know that our planning committee is working on trying to define what that looks like, although it hasn't fully been fleshed out. And so what our hope is that the first tier of membership, social membership, that if we're successful and we rally together and we get that number 2807 to vote yes, that would mean every single homeowner in our community would ostensibly become a social member of our club, and you would have access to that amenity, much like you have access to the other amenities in the community. Some people say, well, I don't play golf, and that's true. You may not play golf, but guess what? I've never been in our lake. I've never swam on the beach. I've never put a boat on the lake, and I probably never will, but I recognize that how precious that pretty blue lake is to my home value. And for those of you who never ever golf, that beautiful green golf course that you drive down at the Parkway every day and look at is integral to your home value. And so it's just so very, very important. Now, one last thing as far as management goes. What we hope will happen is that we'll retain our general manager, and he will answer directly to, or the country club general manager will answer directly to the association general manager. We'll have a committee, a country club committee, that will help solve problems and bring issues to the board for funding and issues, just like we do the equestrian center, just like we do the lake, and just like we do many of our other amenities. Now, tonight I want to introduce to you, and this may be a gentleman that for many of you, you've never put a name to a face and you don't understand completely just who he is, but for me personally has won me over as somebody that I have witnessed with my own two eyes be a man of honor, integrity, stand up, answer hard questions. He puts in long hours, and he's proven himself to be somebody that really does have the community and the well-being of our community at heart. I want you to please give a warm welcome to our general manager, Mr. Alfred Logan.
Good evening, good evening. I was looking at the Facebook feed and some of the comments were, it's a little hard to hear. And so I do want our community to know that we will be reproducing this town hall meeting. We do have videos going, we have audio going, so if you are online and you cannot hear everything that we're saying, we're gonna make sure that we repost it, probably within the next 7 days. So I'm excited to give you guys some information that I believe most of you guys have been looking forward to. We're going to talk about the purchase agreement, and we're going to talk about a little bit about the management and some options that we have moving forward. So let's talk about the purchase price. First, I want to thank our board of directors. Our board of directors have been negotiating. We've been behind closed doors. Our team has been doing a lot of work. Right now, the association has an agreement for the purchase of the country club for $2 million. I'll repeat that, it's for $2 million. So I want to break down, what does that come with? And so what that comes with is the water rights. It comes with the real property. So all the structures that you guys see out there is included in the purchase. It comes with the trade fixtures and the liquor license. I wanted to break down the water rights. That's something that's really important. I know it's something that a lot of our community members have said, hey, what about the water? So let's talk about that. Let's break down some of these numbers. The country club right now has approximately 977 acre feet of water rights. If you break that down and do a ramp down of approximately 55% for the ramp down, in today's market, selling water, what does that value bring to us? The value of that water right now is approximately $5 million in today's market. That's really important. It's important because our team has talked about the need for water, the control of water. We're talking about a $2 million purchase with a $5 million gain. I also want to talk about what's called a contingency. We know that we have several contingencies. We have a 60-plus page purchase agreement, but I'm going to focus on 3 things today for you guys so that you guys can know that the board is doing their due diligence. One of the items that are on that list is an inspection. As Brian has mentioned earlier, we hired Kristovich and Associates to do a full, thorough inspection of that property. And we have a certain amount of time to come back to them and say, hey, we have some concerns with the property. We're lucky because our board of directors have already moved forward and have already started that process, so we're already ahead of the game. The next item is financing. We want to make sure that we secure financing. We want to make sure that we have the proper financing exactly where we're going to pull that from. And the team will get into that a little later. The third item is the most important, your vote. We need the membership vote to purchase this country club. And so what does that look like? That's 66% and 2/3. 66% and 2/3 is what our community needs to pass this. So we have 4,215 voting members. And so the magic number is 2,807. With 2,807 votes of yes, Spring Valley Lake will own the country club. I want to go into some recommendations from our consultant, from the report. There were 3 different recommendations. First recommendation on the management. Brian Hurst has touched on how we would manage it, but I'm going to go into a little more detail. The first option is to completely rent out, purchase a club, completely lease it to a third party, and basically they pay us a fee every month, and then we're hands off. We have very little control. The board can give some type of options on the lease, but we have very little control. The next option would be to hire a property management company, a management professional company that will basically get all the employees together and manage it based on their experience and training. And the board will have some input, they will give the input, and basically they send us the bill. So they hire all their team members, they identify the costs associated with it, and the association pays for that amount. The third option is, as Brian's talked about, there's currently a great general manager, some would say is overqualified for the position. Hire an experienced and qualified manager who reports to our community, to our board of directors, and to the association. And this has been proven to be successful all over the United States. And so we basically go to large-scale training yearly, and I get to visit some really awesome communities. In visiting nice communities, this is how the structure is set up. So I'm going to talk about option 3, but I want to make it very clear the board has not picked exactly what option for sure they want to go with. I'm just going to give you guys the information that I have here, but at the end of the day, the board's going to get community input, and then they're going to make a final decision. They're also going to look at the costs associated with all 3 options. So option number 3, we talked about recruiting and hiring an awesome general manager. If the current general manager stays, that general manager has a qualification. Inside of the report from Kristovich and Associates, he talked about having a PGA certification. That general manager currently has that. If that general manager was not to stay with our association, we would make sure that we would have somebody equal or more than those qualifications that general manager currently has. In addition to option number 3, what's also been presented to us is to also hire a consultant that will give us a roadmap, review our management of the association in the country club, and basically report to the board of directors how things are going based on their experience and training. And so that is going to be a part of option 3, is to have in-house management and consult with a consultant to make sure that we have a good roadmap. I'd also like to break down what does that look like from an organizational chart. So I want to make it very clear. I work for the board of directors. I'm your general manager here for Spring Valley Lake. I wanted you guys to see exactly how it works. So we have our board of directors. I generally work with the president on a weekly basis or as needed. And then we have committees that basically gather information to report back to the board to help us operate and run this association. Underneath the board of directors, my job is to carry out the mission of the board of directors. And so there's a little bit of confusion sometimes out there in our community. It says, hey, Logan's doing this, Logan's doing that. My job is to take direction from the board of directors. The board of directors were elected by our community. Our community gives their input. The board of directors make decisions based on the information that they have readily available. My job is to carry that out. My job is to work with our full team and to make sure every mission that our board has is carried out. And I wanted to make sure that I explained that process. This organizational chart needs to be updated, but this is a clear example of what it would look like. Additionally, as Brian Hurst has talked about, we talked about a country club committee. All residents have the ability to apply for this committee. It's going to be approximately 10 members, and it's going to resemble, for an example, our equestrian committee. Our equestrian committee are a group of residents that are passionate about our equestrian side. It'll be the same thing about our country club. And so what that looks like is there will be requirements. The board will set those requirements for a country club committee, but it will be approximately 10 residents that are extremely passionate and that works with our board of directors on our mission for that country club. So we will need the community to be involved, and we will need the commitment from that group.
Okay, so the question has come up, how can we afford this? What does it look like? What's the budget look like? And it's not a simple and easy question, but I can tell you this, that we owe a huge debt of gratitude to our current board of director, and who's getting ready to cycle off, has decided not to let his name run. It's going to be a seat that's vacated by Mr. Robert Reed, who brought to the table a vision for something bigger than just the country club, and pushed us. And I remember the meeting, Robert, when you brought to us this, your own kind of made-up spreadsheet.
Yes, let's listen to it.
And set it in front of us, and in looking at it, I thought, my exact words were, "This is ambitious. This is ambitious." And it didn't seem to me as though it would be something that would even, it almost felt like a pipe dream a little bit. But what it did is it led our president, along with the management team, on a search for how this could be financed and underwritten so that we minimize the impact to the community and we start checking some boxes on things that we would like to get done. And it has led to a series of conversations that has really stirred me personally up. It stirred our board up. And I, once again, Robert, can't thank you enough for bringing this to us, because we are on the precipice of something great. And so, thank you, sir. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know Robert, he is somebody that you might bump heads with if you don't agree with him. Maybe. But there is no question about his passion, and there's no question about his dedication to our community and to our veterans, of what I happen to be. And so again, thank you, Robert, for your dedication. And I would like for you, if you could please lean in and listen to a presentation from our president on how we can afford this. It's awesome. Here.
So as Brian has said, we've come across an excellent lender. It's offering fantastic financing. And when we got the idea of expanding the project beyond just buying the country club, we immediately started searching for lenders. And, as everybody knows, interest rates right now are really low, and we can capitalize on that by borrowing in this environment right now, coupled with the fact that SVLA is in a very good position financially. We've been taking care of our money and our books forever, so we're in a great position. So with the financing we've been offered, we have an opportunity to fund additional projects beyond purchasing the club, capital improvements to the club, finishing Meadowlark Park. I know that's a big, everybody wants to know, how come the park's not done? How come the park's not done? The park's not done because we haven't funded the park. If we want to sit down and get serious with the budget and spend the money on the park, we can get it done. It's not a management problem. It's not a problem with our maintenance team. It's all about money. Lake Clarity project, we already touched on that a little bit. Spending money at the country club to improve the water quality coming into the lake. Beach expansion program, money for the EQ center, And the big one is the water loan. This lender that we've been talking to, well, generally any lender that we talk to, we must pay off the water loan as part of that loan to buy the country club. We currently owe about $2.2 million on that water loan, with a $1.5 million balloon payment due in about 3.5 years. So that's a problem for us. That $1.5 million payment is due in 2025. So we'd be able to refinance that loan or pay off that loan as part of the purchase for the country club. But because the interest rates are low, we can borrow this money for the low price of only about $20 per month per household. We'll have an exact figure for that once we get this ready for vote, but that's based on projections that we put together on what it costs to operate the club and also the loan servicing. And with that, I'll hand it back to Mr. Brian Hurst.
So I don't know if you caught that, but in one of my Facebook chats, I heard somebody say it's going to be $200, our dues are going to go up $200 a month per homeowner. It's not $200 a month, it's not $100 a month, it's not $50 a month, it's not $30 a month. Projections right now, the impact to do everything, can you put the other, to purchase the club, to improve the capital improvements that are needed at the club. If Joe Brady has his way, we're going to put a fence up around it, and we're going to close it, and we're going to completely redo it, and then open it back up to every homeowner to come and enjoy. And, you know, prayerfully, we'll be able to do an incredible job in doing it. To finish our park, to put in the amenities that everybody would like to see for our kids and make this a wonderful place for our kids. The beach expansion that Brian, he sold me on, I didn't even really, I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around it. But they want to actually expand the beach to where the east and west beach are connected, right? And you can beach your boat there where the dam is now, and that we're going to put a bathroom in, maybe? Showers? Hot tub? No? Okay. And make improvements to the EQ Center and take off our books as it stands right now, a monthly loan payment for the water. So whatever the debt servicing, we're going to eliminate a lot of payment off our books and be able to do all of this for around $20 per month per household and set our community up for a wonderful, wonderful future. Now, one of the people that has been in this community, and I'm sorry, what was your name, sir?
Brown.
Mr. Brown? I like that. You just go by Brown?
No, Bill.
Oh, like, okay. You're like Madonna, you only need one name? Just Brown? And so we actually have a couple of people here in the room tonight that have owned homes and been residents here since the place was built. And I have a hard time getting my mind wrapped around that. If you've not been on YouTube and done a Google search for the beginning of SVL, is that what it is? Or the building of Spring Valley Lake, something like that. It shows footage from 1969 of them running the tractors and digging up the lake and planting the golf course. It's incredible. And one of the presenters coming tonight said, I don't have to watch the YouTube video. I was there to watch it for myself. And she's coming tonight to share with you both her story of living here in Spring Valley Lake and what the present looks like and our heart for the future. Would you give a warm welcome to Miss Joanne Romero? Mrs. Joanne Romero, she comes.
Hi, everybody. It's really great seeing everybody tonight. Really good to see you all out here. I do have this weird, unique perspective. When I was 16 years old, a guy came to the door. I lived in Los Angeles, and he was a salesman, and my mom let him in, and she and my dad talked to this guy, and he was from someplace called Boise Cascade. And he laid out all kinds of notebooks on the table and pictures and renderings, and my mom said, that would be a great place to retire. And my dad said, oh, we can't afford that. We can't do that. And she said, yes, we can. So they invite the salesman invited my parents to come up here and see the place, took them to lunch, and guess who tagged along? 16-year-old Joanne. And so I come up here and I was very skeptical. It was really neat, but it was so remote. I was raised in Los Angeles. And so my parents ended up buying a property on Golf Course Drive, and they picked it out off of a really cool, they had a three-dimensional, it just looked, I just wanted to, play with that thing. It had the lake, it had all these little houses, it had the golf course, it had all kinds of little trees, and it was a miniature replica of, and a three-dimensional replica of Spring Valley Lake. And every time somebody would buy a house, they would put a little red dot or a little flag on that little property. So my parents picked one out, and we went and looked at it. There was nothing really here except dirt roads. There were no curbs, no street signs. We didn't really know where we were, but we ended up finding the property, and there was a tiny little skinny tree on that property. And in fact, maybe you don't realize this, but there were skinny trees on all of the properties. And they have since probably blown down. I know there are some, and they were cottonwoods. And probably a good thing that they blew down, because we would be, I don't know about you, I'm allergic to cottonwood, but I still love it up here. Anyway, they bought their property, and we were treated really nicely by Boise Cascade. And then my parents started coming up here every few weeks, sometimes every month, just to make a trip up to see what was going on. And the first time we came back up, there was a guard at the entryway, and we had to stop. And we had to show an ID that we were property owners. And he let us on in. And we found that there were a couple of model homes. Well, there was one model home on Cedar Brook. I believe that's the street that overlooks hole 18 and the pond on 18. And so we saw that there was a house being built. So the next time we came up, a few months later, we went in that house. It was the first house built in Spring Valley Lake. It was a really crazy, really neat house. I loved it. It had a hanging dining room, and it had a sunken, remember back in the 60s, do you remember conversation pits? It had one of those, and I thought it was really cool. But I was 16 or 17 years old at the time, and I was more interested in the streams on the golf course. So one time I wore my bathing suit under my clothes, and I asked my parents, can I go in that stream? And my mom said, yeah, go ahead. So I actually went swimming in the stream on hole number 8. So probably wasn't allowed, but we didn't really have security back then. Anyway, that was really fun. But I wanted to live here so badly. But my parents said, well, it's a retirement place, we're going to retire there. And sure enough, they built their home in 1979. They finally got their home built, and they rented a house while it was being built. And we would keep coming up here, and I still wanted to live here, but I was trying to get my career in order down the hill, and finally, it's like, we need a house. We've got these 2 kids. They're young, but we've got to have a house for them. Let's go back to Spring Valley Lake. The neighborhood was full of retired people, and I love retired people. In fact, I am a retired person now. You know, retired people are pretty cool, but my children had friends that were retired people, and it was just so much fun for them to grow up here. kids started moving in 1980, and that's when we built our house in 83. Kids started moving in, families started moving in, and I don't know if anyone in here was on the board of directors back then, but the board of directors was still in the mode of retirement community, and it was a recreational lake community, and they really weren't thinking that there would be a lot of children and families. Did you know that this place where we're sitting right now was going to be an elementary school? Yeah, and it got voted down. I think they just said there weren't enough kids or something. And so that got either voted down by the school district. I'm not really sure what happened, but pretty soon there was a park, and my kids loved it. My daughter was older, but my son had a lot of fun over here when the park was finally built. I believe it was in and around 1990, 1989, something like that. Anyway, the community has gone from retirement. Another fun fact, most of the board members on the Spring Valley Lake Board didn't even live here. They had property here, but they didn't live here at first. So there were a lot of people that were helping out this place, but they were, maybe in Hesperia or Apple Valley or down the hill. So anyway, it became a neighborhood. It became a neighborhood of kids. It became a neighborhood of older folks. It became a neighborhood of people with no kids. And the homeowners association started to really work on the amenities. I don't fish, but I love watching kids fish and people fish and pull out those beautiful trout and whatever is in there. I don't ride horses, but I love the fact that I live in an area that has an equestrian center because I think horses are beautiful. I used to go in the lake. We had a boat. I learned to water ski on this lake. Boy, that was a really fun thing. The people over on the side were clapping for me when I finally got up. And nobody told me just stand up. They just said, "Oh, let the boat pull you out of the water." Sure. No, you have to stand up. Anyway, the neighborhood became more and more of a place where everybody could enjoy something. There still weren't very many things for kids, but as the years have gone by, these things have happened. If you look at the picture up here on the screen, I know it's maybe a little hard to see. This is a photograph taken out of a private airplane by someone that's sitting in this room. Al Logan, nice photo. Anyway, I wanted to show you this picture because not only is it where we live, but look at that lake and look at how much that golf course encompasses this neighborhood. And I just have this awful feeling about letting someone else mess with all that stuff. I wouldn't want anybody messing with our lake. I wouldn't want anybody restricting our fishing areas or our equestrian area. And I really feel good about saying that I believe that this golf course needs to be part of our community. So to conclude, I know I've been going on a little long. You probably have tons of questions, but we are more than a subdivision. We are more than just a neighborhood near Victorville. This is a lifestyle community. It includes everything that you see in that map. Unfortunately, we don't have the equestrian center, but it's just off to the east. And it's more than just a place to sleep at night. It's more than just a house, a place to have your house. It's a place to have activities for families, all ages, not just families, but everybody of all ages. So, in conclusion, I just wanted to say, all of you have it in your grasp. Everybody that's listening to this town hall, everybody that's in this room, everybody that can cast a vote, you all have it in your grasp to take care of the legacy of Spring Valley Lake, to make sure that we continue to make progress as a community and continue to offer that lifestyle that we all love so much, and to keep Spring Valley Lake that jewel that we talked about earlier for generations, not just for now, for generations to come. Thank you.
All right, as we wrap this up, I want to first of all give again a great thank you to all of the people that have dedicated themselves to making this event happen tonight. We hope this will be the first in a series of similar events. Hopefully with each one we'll have more information and we'll be able to deliver the information with even more clarity. I especially want to say thank you to Mr. Sean Factora, who's here tonight and helped us pull off our live stream. So can you give him a great thank you tonight for your dedication, Sean? Thank you. In a conversation that I had here recently with a good friend of mine and colleague, Dave Greiner, he said something that really spoke to my heart. It was that if a community does not invest in itself, it will die. And that just really rang true for me, and I thought, you know, gosh, there's so much truth, and that really would speak for every area of our life, Miss Jerry. I mean, your home, if you don't invest in your home, you wake up one day and you've got avocado green shag carpeting and harvest gold appliances and lava lamps and the Bee Gees playing in the background, and you thought, what happened? Because we're called on to invest and to maintain and take care of the things that we have stewardship over. And I know that for me personally, this is something that is a fire that burns in my belly, and I understand that we as the current board of directors stand on the shoulders of giants and people that have gone on before us who sacrificed greatly and dedicated themselves so that we could enjoy the community that we have today. And here we are, dear friends and fellow residents of our beloved community. We stand on the precipice of a tremendous opportunity. As Brian has already alluded to, there isn't a single one of us on this board, Lewis, Robert, Sherry, Brian, Bill, Joanne, me, that thought one day, let's buy a country club. That was not on our radar. But we were forced into a situation where we have to make a decision. The word decision comes from the Latin word to cut away. We're on the precipice of making a decision as a community that is going to set the future for our children and our grandchildren. One way or another. We have no choice. We have to make a decision. And from the day we set before you the vote to get 2807, and you decide yes or no, from that moment forward, there will be a change in our community. And you've been tasked with the responsibility to see to it that that decision keeps the legacy alive, that Spring Valley Lake will remain the jewel of the desert. With that, we're going to open the floor.
So I'm going to stick with the time. The time is going to be 8:30. So we'll keep it open until 8:30. If you guys have any additional questions that may not be asked, give me one second. If you guys have any additional questions that may not be answered today, you can send your questions to countryclub@svla.com. We'll make sure that our board of directors receive those questions, and we make sure that we answer those questions. We want to respect your time, we want to respect our speakers' time, and we want to try to answer as many questions as possible. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with our board of directors that were not on the speaking panel, but that may have some important information. And so we're going to see if any of our board members have any comments they want to make, and then I'm going to open it up to the committee, the planning committee members that have put in a lot of time and a lot of work. I'm supposed to stand right here. And so I'm going to check in with our board of directors and then our committee, and then we're going to open it up for questions to our residents, from our residents. I do ask for our residents to please keep your questions related to information that we presented today. The reason why we want to do that is because, as our team has stated, we're going to have more board meetings with our community that we will release additional information. So if it's related to the information that we've provided, we'll be more than happy to answer those questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to any board member that would like to make any statements or comments, and we'll go from there.
Is this on now? My name is Robert Reed. Joanne and I have something in common. We were both up here in 79, 78. In fact, I lived up here for a while in 46, right after WW2. My grandfather and parents had a property out here. And for those of you who don't know, the last official gunfight in the state of California was on 7th Street in Victorville in 1912, outside of my Uncle Boydie's barber shop. Enough for that. I remember this vacant lot when it was here, and I remember them digging the lake. I remember the golf course. I bought some homes here. I fixed some homes up here. I stayed here. I raised my son here with my wife, a beautiful woman. She retired as Meg for us. She's been traveling the hills. She's a cardiac care nurse. She finally pulled the pin, and we're staying. We're not leaving the area no matter what. My only concern with this entire thing, because I grew up in South Central LA too, one of 11 children, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, no money. I feel for the senior citizens and others that have an economic problem. And somehow I hope we can figure out how to make sure none of them have to leave, okay? But we are gonna have to purchase the country club, and I want to purchase it for a selfish reason. I have vested interest in it. The monument that's on the parkway is a veterans monument, which my wife financed and had built. Everybody gives me credit for it, but it was her money. So I never want to lose that thing. Never, ever do I want to lose it. And that's why one of my main reasons for wanting to keep the country club. So I have a selfish reason, but I can visualize the days my son went swimming in that pool, did the trifecta, ran away one time, and they chased him down the golf course to catch him. It's a beautiful place, it needs to be rehabbed, but let me tell you, when you see that place in its prime, you'll love it beyond belief.
Yes, sir.
It's a great place. And so I hope you all vote the right way, my way. They say I argue a lot. But anyway, I won't take up any more time, but thank you very much for coming, okay? And I hope in the future we'll have all the answers that you need to vote positive. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sherry Boyd, and I've heard people say that each of the board of directors has their own agendas for why they are on this board. And I'll tell you what my agenda is. I want to keep my home value up. I said when I moved back out to California, I was never buying a home again because every time I do, something happens. So I really want to make sure that my home value stays what it is, and I'm sure that you all feel that same way. I was on the task force and saw what could happen if the country club falls into the hands of someone else. There's some different clubs that's happened to in California and around the country. that foreign investors have bought it, and then they forgot about it. They didn't water it, and it really decreased the values of homes. So we have this opportunity. I mean, what Brian Hurst is saying is this is a great opportunity for us to maintain our home values, to control our own destiny, and to keep this community the jewel of the high desert. Thank you all, and get out and make sure that you vote yes for it.
My name is Louis Ponce. I've lived in the area for quite a while. In fact, I raised my kids in this area. I ended up purchasing the home that I have for my brother-in-law and sister when they decided to move out of the area, and it was the best decision my wife and I have ever made. This is a community where your kids can walk around the streets and not be worried about the element that's in the area. This is an area that is safe, it's growing, and I think the purchase of the golf course is essentially a maturation of the whole community as a whole, and it ties everything together. And I hope that you all consider talking to your neighbors and answering their questions and passing on the information that we've done. And it's been an honor to serve for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So we're going to move forward with our committee members. We'll try to keep our comments short, and then after that, we will open it up for questions for our community. What we're going to do is, for our community members who have questions, we're going to ask that you come up here so that the camera can see who's speaking, and then we're going to ask that you ask the question and then go back to your seat and give us an opportunity to reply to your question. So with that being said, I'll take anyone from the committee or planning committee. You can come right up where I'm standing here.
Thank you. Hi there, my name is Bill Brown. I heard a statement made that I want to rephrase it for you. It was made that we were forced into making a decision. I don't look at the situation like that at all. I think we've been handed a wonderful opportunity that we can do nothing but benefit by making this purchase. I don't think there's a person in this room that can say they cannot afford $20 a month more. Haven't you spend more money than that today when you go out to lunch? I came up here in the early to mid 70s, bought a lot, built a home finally, and lived up here since. I initially came up here to water ski. I had a couple of ski boats. I used to bring groups of kids up here and teach them to water ski. Started playing golf. Somebody told me one time the wonderful thing about golf is, unlike water skiing, snow skiing, a lot of the other, playing football, which I did also, you can play golf for years later. I can't even play golf anymore, but I played golf for about 20 years after I got through water skiing. And this property, people, I'm telling you, we've got to keep it in our hands. If we don't, we're going to hurt. We're going to lose in the long run. Your home will not be worth anywhere near what it is now. We won't have anywhere near the community we have now. And the thing that I found out on the committee is that we're not just purchasing the golf course, but we have all these other wonderful improvements we're making that I had no idea were included in this whole thing. And everybody will be very proud of what's going to happen here if we do make this purchase. So I think every single person, when you make up your mind that you should vote, we've got to get the word out to everybody else. There's a lot of naysayers out there. They think we're just going to be ripping them off, making more money, and putting us in debt. That's not what's going to happen at all. I hope you all really think about these things. And well, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you.
Hi there. Just want everybody to know I was part of the task force committee as well as the planning committee. We put a lot of time and effort in this project, and we're very, very passionate about it. It's very important for us to maintain the lifestyle here in SVL that we all love. And, you know, as Bill Scott said, home values are very important. I have a vested interest and hope to retire here in this community. And, you know, there's a saying that says, when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. This is not the greatest we can be. So we want to be green like the golf course, like the country club. We want to invest in SVL. So 2809, that's our number.
All righty, let's open this up for some questions and see where we end up. Any takers? I don't see any. Just kidding. Bill, come on up, Bill.
It's a long way from the back, sorry. First, I want to thank the board because my name is Bill Walters. I've worked with them in a number of different ways in the past. I know how much they've put into this, and I will go by what Al says. I won't ask any questions that haven't come up yet. But what would help us envision it is when you break down to $20 per month, and you don't have to answer this question now, but is it possible to put it on paper? All the numbers that are built in there, we talked about a lot of great things, like the park. Do we have specific items that are in the park? You know, all the different things that we said we're going to do, is there somewhere a list of all those things so we can see the numbers, so we can understand how we came up with that number? You know, there's two ways. There's a wish list, and there's here's what we came up with. And I know you guys are detailed, so can there be something we can see so we understand, for instance, the park, what's involved?
That's a great question. First of all, you need to know that we haven't fleshed all of that out yet, but before this comes to a vote, every dollar will have a name. So you will know with absolute precision what you're voting for, the budget, what you're voting for, and at least my hope, I don't want to speak out of turn, that it will actually be an action item on our board so that the money can't be appropriated anywhere other than where the community has told it to go. And we are going to open it up for community input on what is done with the park. So I know that there's a lot of different ideas about what should be done with the park, but we want to make it the best park. We want to make it the jewel of the desert. You like that? You're going to put that up somewhere? All right.
Already up. We're good.
Yeah. Do you have any more to add to that? That's it? Okay. Well, does that answer your question, Bill? Okay. Good. Come on up, sir. If you have a question, come on up.
Hey, everybody. I'm afraid I'm going to echo what Bill just said. I reverse engineered the number. You know, a monthly amount is great, but my first car that I bought from a very bad dealership in LA called Universal Ford, when they started talking how much it would cost per month is when I should have raised the hackles. So I'd like to know the details of it as well. It sounds great. It sounds like a lot of hard work's been done, and 20 a month sounds fantastic. But it comes to about $9 million or thereabouts, I'm guessing, in expenses. And I'm sure that's the purchase, the improvements, and the other things. Is there a reason that can't, I mean, you came up with a 20 per month. Can you sketch out what the dollars are for the rest? I think that's what people came for today.
Thank you. So as Brian stated, before the board asks for your vote, we want to assure you that we will provide you with sufficient information so that you make an informed decision. The board will not ask you guys to vote on anything without providing you guys detailed information on where that money's going to go. And so I hope that that answers your question. The board will not ask you to vote without providing you a full roadmap of where we're going. Next question. Come on up, please.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Jim Boretz. I've been in the community probably about 13 years. I actually leased a condo on the beach for the first 3. I used to manage a store in the mall. And it was wonderful. Of course, the owner at the time wouldn't sell it because it was totally belly up. I think it was going for like $150,000. But yeah, so he said if I sold that, it would be a total loss, not just on paper. And he was right. He kept it, and here it is, over $300,000 again. Anyway, so I bought a house about 10 years ago, and I'm really happy. Here, I'm on the Riverview there. They built that nice block right behind my fence there. And I have to commend you as well, the group that puts this all together. It looks like you did your due diligence and spent a lot of time at it, and even answered questions that I... Oh, sorry.
You gotta speak up for us.
A little tall here. Anyway, my question had to do with financing as well. Obviously, that loan's going to have a finite period of time where it'll be paid off. Nobody's mentioned that. I don't know if it's a 10-year thing or how that works, but you know, that's a short amount of time. It's quite possible that, well, you know, I realize that our dues go up periodically and that type of thing, but like I said, it's a temporary, finite period of time that we've been talking about this extra, although by that time we may need to keep going, you know, with the price of things going up, but it sounds like a great win-win situation to me, so I'm all for it.
All right, got one in the middle, and to take the one in the back after he's.
How you doing? My name's Rick. I'm retired here for 3 years, and I'm enjoying it. I like the idea about taking ownership of the golf course. I think we should own the property and take care of ourselves. But my question would be, if we do this, would it just be for the people of Spring Valley Lake, or are you going to have the outside community come in here and be able to use it? Because I worked at a golf course when I was young, and people don't respect, if they don't own it, they don't respect it, and they tore up the course. So I'd like to know if it's going to be ours, or are you going to open it up to the outside?
Thank you for that question.
So the question was, are we gonna have, is the club gonna be private or public? And it's most certainly gonna be private. We're gonna have, part of our deal is we are assuming existing Club Corp contracts. So there are some non-resident members there currently. We're gonna absorb those contracts. So we will have some non-resident members of the club, but we're gonna limit those to close to what they're at now and cut it off. So going forward, after we purchase, the only way to become a member of the club is to buy property in Spring Valley Lake. And then going back to the gentleman's question about financing. The financing that we've been offered is 4.5% for 15 years, straight amortized, no balloon payment at the end. And no down payment. No down payment, 4.5%, 15 years, straight amortized. Any other questions? Back here?
Hello. My question is, do you guys have profit and loss statements from the country club that you can show homeowners to help us make a, more educated vote? And then my other question is, if the country club is running at a loss, which, you know, me as a member, you know, going to the country club, when I look in it and see the amount of members that there currently are and the cost of running it, I know it's running at a loss right now. Do you guys have an immediate plan in place to make it run at least a wash as soon as you guys take it over? So that way you're not draining HOA reserves on a new acquisition? And then are you guys able to disclose who you're planning on borrowing the money from and how much is that loan gonna be?
So I'll try to answer. I know you asked several questions, so I try to hit as much as I can. Three. And so the board will be as transparent as possible when it comes to the purchase. We do have access to the financials. Right now, the country club team has basically given us the ability at this time to talk about the purchase price and the contingencies. We're still negotiating some fine-tuned things inside of that contract. They made it very clear to us not to release any information until we're completely done with that 60-plus page document. Like I said, we came to an agreement on the price, we came to the agreement on the contingencies, but we do have access to the vault. And what the vault is full disclosure of all their financials. They can turn a profit. They have turned a profit. What's happened is they have not had the resources they need to turn that place into a place that we would call our country club. They haven't had an opportunity to, if generally a lot of our residents don't go to that facility right now. They don't go to get dinner. They believe that you have to be a member. And so there are a lot of things that are going to change when we have 4,215 homeowners that have the ability to go down there, have the ability to have lunch or dinner, and every dollar that they spend goes back into the association. We're not going to be paying for corporate individuals coming down here. We're not going to be paying for any of those things. We're going to be taking that money and redirecting it. And the best way I can answer that is our board is going to release as much as information as we can. At certain times of this purchase, we have signed non-disclosures agreements, and they've asked us, because there's other parties involved, not to release certain information. And we also don't want to cause any damages to their organization if our community decides that they don't want to move forward with it. And so we have to minimize the damages by releasing information because it can affect them in their future. Go ahead, we'll have one more comment.
I just want to, and that was a great question, but, sorry, are you still here? What was your name, sir? Donovan, thank you so much. That was a really good question. A couple of things. The board has full access to all the numbers, and we've reviewed the numbers closely, and we're not buying an entity that we don't have familiarity of. So we know full well where they are now, where they've been in their past, and perhaps what the potential is of that property moving forward. And here's the best example I can give you that hit me while we were talking. Just down the street here is a restaurant establishment that was kind of bumping along, doing okay, went under the name Johnny D's. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed that maybe I don't know if Johnny's here. If you are Johnny, love you. But it was walking straight into 1989. I mean, there was mauve, and it was just a little dated. And same location, same pool of buyers under new management, new ownership that they reinvest into that restaurant. And I don't know if you've been there, but you have to put your name in to get in. And that's what we envision happening with our club under management that cares. So right now, the ownership, the decisions are made by some guy in an ivory tower in Dallas who answers to what Joe Brady calls the 1,000-pound gorilla in New York, and they don't care about us, and so they're not going to invest in it to make sure that it could be all that it could be. So hopefully that answers your question. Also, our current management team there, they know full well of the P&L and the balance sheets. All right, does that answer your question, sir? Oh, so remember, this is the first of a series of town hall meetings, and more information will be forthcoming, and we'll disclose that. All right? Okay, come on up, sir, if you have a question.
And our president said we can release that information, so it's Arch Financial.
Is a broker.
Is a broker. We have a meeting set up for additional information on that. And so we've hit our time. We're going to take this question. If you guys have any additional questions, please send it to countryclub@svla.com. And in addition to that, we're going to have more meetings in the future. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Phil Rogoni. My question is, if we're paying dues to the corporation right now as an associate member, are we going to continue that for membership in the facilities, or is it going to be incorporated in the $20? I don't understand that.
So you're asking if you're currently a member
Yeah,
of the country club
yeah,
and you're a homeowner.
right. Okay.
So homeowners, the good thing about it is we're going to renegotiate your terms and conditions because you're a homeowner. And so you're going to get whatever the rate is that, and I may be speaking out, but my understanding is that you're going to get the same rate as it would only be fair that you get the same rate as every other homeowner. So the board of directors will look at everybody's account, and if it's associated with Spring Valley Lake Association, you are a member, then you should be able to pay the same fees as someone who's just came in and joined as a homeowner. I want to thank you guys for all coming out. We're going to wrap it up now, and I hope you guys have a great evening.